Hi everyone. Hi. I just like to say hi a lot. Hi. Okay, so before I begin today, right? I had a comment. I don't have a lot of comments right now, so whenever someone leaves a comment, of course I see it. Like, duh. Someone was like accusing me my last episode, like my solo episode, that I was reading notes and well, obviously, because sometimes I have ADHD. Sometimes I just talk and then I jump subject and then I lose the main point of what I'm trying to say. So sometimes I do write notes. If you have a problem with it, go eat a bag of dicks. Okay, anyway, so hi everyone. Welcome to another solo episode where I just talk shit out of my ass. So today, I'm gonna freestyle a little bit. I don't have a lot of notes today. I just wanna like a chat. You and I were talking, or just me talking at you, and you can talk to your devices like we're having a chat. Okay. So today's topic I want to talk about. It just dawned on me earlier when I was like in the bathroom. Not that I was doing anything. I was just like cleaning up the bathroom, and then I realized that I'm pretty free lately, which is fucking great. I love a good break. I'm having a break from work, and obviously, a lot of, especially if you're Chinese or Asian, you understand having a long period of break is actually a luxury, but also it can induce a substantial amount of stress. Not that I'm saying the Western country doesn't feel like this, but it's more like it. Also, I think that's not fair. It's not fair for me to say it's an Asian culture thing. I think it depends on your ambition. Like if you want to climb certain ladder, or if you want to amplify your talents, or just you want to keep doing shit. The context of me taking a break is I've been working for a very long time, and I haven't really had a break. I mean, I have vacations before, but any of you who had vacation with me can vouch for me that I was always on my phone. Like, even I was at work, I was always on my phone just dealing with shit from work. So that gave me the idea that I want to talk about today, because I'm in a different state of my life where I decided to take a break. I could pick shit up as I go, which is one of the reason I want to talk about. That is the main subject today is things I learned to not or learning not to complain about. Sorry, I have a cat. Any of cat lovers or cat owners, not owners, but if you have a fur friend, their hair just magically appears everywhere, especially places where it's really itchy when you're recording. Anyways, see, this is why I need notes. Okay, I'm human. Let me fucking be. Why is it every time I'm recording there's an ambulance? Do you guys hear that? I hope you're okay. Okay, anyways, still, I have this hair stuck on my nose. Holy crap. It's really itchy. Okay, I'll soldier through. Stop. Okay, so today's topic, the main subject I want to talk about is things that I've learned to learned or learning not to complain about. Um, just like if you haven't seen any of my stuff before, I just want to give you a little picture. I am in my 30s, mid to late 30s, fabulously, chronically, happily single. Not that it's a problem or anything. I was just enjoying life. So I have a lot of freedom in my life. I decide what I want to do, where I want to go, who do I want to do things with. That's in itself a kind of a luxury. But I don't really want to open up the subject of dating. It's just more fun to talk about dating with another person. So I'll save it for later. So like I said earlier, I'm just learning to take a break. And it's really hard to explain this feeling, because I understand under the current situation on a global scale that worldwide global economy is not doing well. So for me to be able to not able afford to take a break is such a luxury because I work really hard, I save money, and so I calculated how much money I would need to take a break for a little bit and then, just regroup, rejuvenate, rehydrate, everything, rebuild, or whatever it is, all the reads. I need to restart my own creative thoughts and, all of that. So I'm taking this precious, precious break and I'm having a little bit of anxiety, to be honest, because I've been working so hard for almost majority of my adult life. So taking this break, even though it was my choice, it's a little, I feel a little bit of guilt, as in like you are, rising to the peak. I've talked to many people who are older than me and they said your actual life, your whole actual pivotal life begins at 40, which is very young at our societal standard at this point because be we can't afford to buy houses or can't really afford to do a lot of things because things are just really expensive. And I think aside from that, like our progress is delayed by a previous generation's measurement. um the main point I think is just I think people who are older who lived a lot of their life already, they come around tell you the reason why your life actually starts, like your actual chosen life starts at 40. I understand is because you have fully formed who you are and you are very comfortable. You have become, if you're lucky, if you're really self-aware, you become aware of who you really are and you've stopped trying to conform or make sure everyone else is comfortable, or you just like living life loudly as exactly who you are, all the experience you've gathered in your teens and your 20s and your 30s, and then you make no apology be who you are without the intention, hopefully, without the intention of harming anyone in a lot of ways. But I understand if you're climbing that corporate ladder, it's a little bit of a gray area because you be thinking you're doing a job, but your job might be like, let's say if you're HR, you gotta fire someone. It's never pleasant, but you understand the big picture that whatever reason it is, I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying everyone's have a job to do. You get paid to do a job. Sometimes the job is fucking unpleasant. The task you gotta do is fucking unpleasant. And there's no way you can really avoid it if you're in that world. For me, I'm in the creative scene, so we don't really have as vivid or as strong of a corporate ladder that's more defined, like well defined about like, like if you're a manager or something. But in our world, there's also a hierarchy where you have to climb if you're very ambitious, and you got to do things that people is not gonna be yay sayers. Like they're not gonna be very supportive. People love to hate. I'm a hater, but you just gotta, I think that's why when older people say when you're age 40 you just learn to not let those things affect you, because if you learn to deal with it. In my plan, that this little podcast that I have, I want to do it full time. I want to make it fun for everyone, and let's just talk shit, let's grow together. Like, let's go through growing pain together. That's the whole main point. That like I'll report back when I reach 40 and then, see if this is validated. Or I could just ask someone. I remember I had a short conversation with Wes before. If you haven't checked out our episode, please go check it out. He's like the nicest guy, super humble and wise. You just don't, you don't run into a lot of those who are, to me, he's like just a cool dude. So, so Wes is over 40 and every time I talk to him, I feel like, man, he's just like, he's got it. He's calm, he's rational, he's reasonable, and he can understand, like one of the things I love some of the older people who are older than me, or I strive myself to be, is to understand youth culture in a deeper level, where there are problem that you that whatever younger people are going through, you understand, you really understand their struggle, and you give them actual good advice that could, not maybe not in a way that you help them immediately, but maybe hopefully in the best case scenario, you enlighten them in some way that they can help themselves. Like, I think that's like a super cool thing, like that shit is fucking great. So, um, see, my ADHD is kicking in. Like sometimes I talk to myself and you get really, really happy and you get into a trance of talking to yourself. I'm keep looking at my plant. I bought some jasmine. If you're watching the video, you see, and some eucalyptus. This is beautiful. So, and it smells really great. Yes, have fresh flowers at your house. That's always great. If they die, you have to replace them. But eucalyptus is amazing. I put that in my shower because when you shower, the humidity and the steam and the water that splash off of you go onto eucalyptus, and you're just in a very relaxed state. Or lavender, if you prefer lavender, you can do that. Buy fresh lavender and just poke it up, and you tie it up and hang around your shower heads or something like that. It's great. Adulting. Okay, so let's dive right in. The first thing that I learned, or still learning not to complain about, is being busy. Given this like current, like I said earlier, all the buildup, like me talking, and given this economy, there are certain scenarios where either, like I said, if you're not super ambitious, great, do like it's your life. If you want to have a chill life, do that. But for people who are very ambitious or something, I actually think, because manifesting is a great message to put out there. Not that you have to believe in the power of universe or something, but I do find that when you say things with certain intention, what you say matters, because you believe it, you said it out loud, and things will happen that way because you believe it. So if you keep complaining, like I do mean complain, like if you keep complaining that, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy to a point where I just can't breathe and stuff. Obviously, my advice to that is, if you're really, really that busy, and if you're in a corporate job where you can't say no to jobs, or like, things, just like, this is the situation you signed up for. Maybe obviously, the employer is gonna tell you like, hey, you're doing a handful of work, but when you on board, it's always like maybe 2, 3, 4, even 5 handful of work that you gotta do. But that's just how it is. I'm not saying it's great or it's right, but things just happen, especially in my scene. Like, you become like like a Swiss Army knife person. You gotta have multi skill like practice, or you just really gotta be skillful, because nowadays money is tight. If you do graphic design, but if you do design, you gotta know more than graphic design. You gotta do more than, you gotta learn, you gotta, and sometimes we all do hard labor. Like, I move boxes when it's necessary. So when you're busy, I understand. I really do. I've been through it. Trust me, I've been through it. I've been through it so hard that I can't explain. I did a full-time job that's so hard. I worked so hard. I had a spinal hernia from sitting in front of the camera. I mean, the computer for too long, like too prolonged, an extremely unhealthy amount of sitting. And then I had a spinal hernia where I had to get a really minor surgery to cut off what the hernia is, because otherwise I couldn't walk. That's how painful it was. I was like, they gave me morphine. That's how painful it is, especially in China. For the fact that a doctor gave you morphine, where there's like substance control here is very, very strict. That's how much pain I was in. So that tells you how dedicated I was and how busy I was. And was it worth it? At the time, now that I'm thinking about it, I had a lot of fun doing that job. I did what I love. I'm very incredibly, let me just say this out loud, times, as many times or as frequently as I can, to just put that energy out there, and hopefully if it get on you, great. I am incredibly lucky. I am incredibly blessed. I have a very luxurious life in my own standards, and I'm very thankful for people who giving me chances, and I'm very grateful for people who stick around and see my potential, even though sometimes I make a lot of mistakes. Um, but that's part of life, so if you're really, really busy, stop complaining about it. First of all, I think a lot of people are going through the same thing. I have a friend in the States, like he has a full time job, and it's like, and I don't even mean 40 hours a week kind of full time. I'm talking about close to 60, 70 hours, almost like entire day kind of thing. And then because money is tight, he has to, still do freelance on the weekend. So it's monetary requirements. Like you need money to survive, giving people credit or word of mouth doesn't actually pay your rent. You need money to pay your rent. So, he wants to have a little bit more comfortable life with his own standard. So he's like doing freelance on top of his full-time job. So he is very burned out. And he was on the phone with me, and I feel for him. It's really tough right now, especially in the States or a lot of Western countries. I think China is also really hard, but as a culture, in Chinese culture, we learn to not try not to live beyond our means, and also stay in the financial lane. And you gotta save. You gotta stop buying stupid shit. I'm not talking about me. Look at all this makeup that I have. Like, if you're watching the video, you can see it's like really crazy. But I'm also really blessed. People sent me stuff. But you gotta stay in your financial lane. So if you manage your life better, you just have to believe that in this day and age, if you're really busy, your stress is coming from tasks and dealing with interperson relationships and communications and solving problems. And those can be very fun because you learn a lot along the way. How to communicate people. That's one of the biggest, I think, how would I call it, like a lifelong skill that we need to develop. That you think you have it locked in. Like you would think, oh, I got that shit locked in. I got it locked down, or whatever it is that people use nowadays. You don't. You fucking don't. Like, because communication is like a really fine, delicate art where you have to just, like I say, as you learn to be who you are as a person, the more you learn about yourself, the comfortability of being yourself, you have to learn how to communicate your thoughts very articulately, very clearly, very just direct without being harmful. Does that make sense? So that's what I mean. If you're booked and blessed and busy, stop complaining. Just enjoy it. You signed up for it. You can't just, if you signed up for like a marathon, you can't be complaining, oh, this is so much running. You signed up for it, and a lot of people are unemployed, don't have money, and, the basic means of life, So if you're booked and busy, just enjoy it. Just think of yourself as being very blessed and don't complain. And but also anyone who works in my field, like a creative scene, if you're a freelancer, if you're a contributor or anything, guys, remember to chase down those payments. Don't let those people who signed the contract and be like, oh, we're having problem. Everyone's having problem. Just make sure you chase down the payment. But also, this is what I mean. It's an art that you don't want to ruin relationships with your like employer, or the we call it in Chinese 甲方, like the party A on the contract. Um, this is also like, seriously, it's an art. You try to get your money without pissing them off or something. And if it comes to that, don't be afraid to piss off people. If they are shady people, they are not honoring the contract or honoring their word or honoring the agreement that you guys have and try to get out of paying you, you have every right to throw a fit. Call them out on social, like, do all the things that you need to do to burn that bridge, because sometimes some bridges need to be burnt. That's all I'm saying. But use your own judgment. I'm not trying to ruin your relationships, but this is part of being an adult. You gotta use your own judgment. Like, oh, this is beyond saving. Let's fucking move on. Okay. So the second thing I've learned, like, these two are coexisting. Sometimes I learn, sometimes, the lessons take a while to stick. That's why learning, growing pain is like real, because sometimes you repeat your mistakes. Is that I'm still not good at it because to be honest, guys, like, this is one of the biggest fucking thing that anyone has participated in, and once you do it, it's really hard to. It's the line is blurring. I'm trying to learn not to accidentally, even with good intentions, like, it doesn't matter what your intention is, to say anything, good or negative. Good, yeah, I think people won't have a problem with it, but any smidgen of negative indentation of, like, anybody behind their back, try to say it to their face. Say it like, look, listen, I don't like what you're doing, but if you're having fun, I'm your friend, I support you, but, like, please be careful what you're doing, whatever it is. Or if you think one of your friendships or something is changing and you feel a certain way about it, like, growing apart with a friend is really difficult because you love them the same, but you understand the choices that both of you or most of you or all of you are making are good at the moment, like, decisions that you make, and you change accordingly. Sometimes you just grow apart, and you want things to stay the same, but you can't, because it's part of life. We all got to grow. So you just got to be supportive, and hopefully you can be close again. If not, but I made a mistake of, like, saying some shit, not even like in a really bad way, just like, oh, like, he or she is going through. It's a he or she, don't correct my pronouns, it's just I'm thinking of a specific people. Like, either they change or they're doing things that I don't really understand, or I don't think it's a good idea. I made a mistake of, like, saying that behind their back, even though my intention is not to, like, judge them or saying anything really trying to hurt their feelings. It's just like, that's my observation. And you can't be like, you really can't be like, oh, I thought I was in a safe space. People talk, people really talk, like, they might not have a bad intention, but sometimes, information gets passed out there. You don't know how people say certain things that you said, or how the people absorb that information. Like, if, for example, if, let's say, oh, someone cooked me a meal and I was like, oh, but, like, it wasn't like the best meal, but I really appreciate their effort. That's one way to say it. And then someone heard it and be like, oh, I don't think she really liked it, but she really appreciate your effort. And the person who cooked the meal would be like, oh man, like, I suck. And she's telling people that my cooking sucks and I put in all this effort, and she's, like, not happy about it, even though I went out of my way to, make sure, she's good, but then she's not. She didn't say it to my face, and she's telling everyone else, like, that's not a good feeling. I understand that. And, maybe the way I said it was like, man, like, I wasn't feeling good that day. Context matters, guys. Context. Like, I wasn't feeling that good, but I made a commitment, and, he made this meal for me. I really appreciate it, but I just couldn't eat it like a normal, like, when I'm feeling well, I have, like, good appetite, and I feel so bad because they went into all this effort to make me a meal, even if it's like cereal and milk, whatever. So, it really depends. So I've earlier this year, I made a dent in one of my dearest friendship, and I felt like just fucking horrible. Like, obviously my intention is not to hurt this person, but they were hurt, they were hurt, and it was my fault. I should have just said it to their face. um it's also a little confession. I don't think they will see the video, but if you know who you are, if you stumble upon, I do apologize publicly, and I apologize to them privately, but this is a lesson I really need to make sure it sticks. And I've stopped complaining about people behind their back, and it's really not cool, guys. This is some of the things I know. Being I have to say, like, because I have a Chinese brain, I also have American brain, and being like, one of the biggest vulnerability being a Chinese is you never air your dirty laundry. I'm pretty sure that's like a lot of cultures do that, but like in China, a lot of people don't own up to their mistakes and just like double down, which is why a lot of relationships burn down. I'm not one of those. I'm a third culture kid. I meet you in the middle. I'm like, man, listen, I fucked up. Doesn't matter how my intentions are good or not. The method of me doing that, I fucked up. I'm an adult. I should know better. I fucking should know better. So that's on me. I'm really sorry. I really am. And I'll try to change, like, because it's just not cool. Like I said, like, it doesn't matter how many times I repeat it with good intentions. It doesn't matter. Your delivery system matters. So stop complaining about things that you should say to other people's face instead of don't do it behind their back. It's just fucking not cool. Okay. So the next thing, as we were talking, the next thing I want to say is probably like stop complaining about is it's a big one. This is a huge one. Is to It all started when I was like earlier, when I was walking around trying to have mental notes in my head, like, what else do I complain a lot? Because hey, everything I say is from my own point of view. I'm not saying I'm absolute. Like, my opinions and my thoughts are not like holy Bible or like the rules of society. It's just my observation, is my point of view. I'm just sharing it with you guys. So one of the biggest thing, especially when I was younger, is I complain about my upbringing situation, my parents and my family and stuff. The reason I want to say that you should stop complaining is almost like an acceptance of a state of mind. You have to, I don't care how many people I've talked to, especially the older, wiser people in my life. Thank you guys. Is that you have to accept the situation as it is. I know you don't choose your family. You can't. We can't choose our family. But eventually you have to accept them for who they are. You don't have to like them, but you have to accept them for who they are. You can stay a very safe distance from them. Like, I'm not going to get involved with your everyday, or even like, I'm not going to talk to you. We're just going to be cordial, like, but I had a really tough, I wouldn't say tough, it's just abnormal kind of upbringing. My mom is a very, very, she's a character. She means so well. The way I describe her is she's a sea urchin, very spiky on the outside, but if you crack her open, the inside is very sweet, very nutritious. She means really well, but man, she can just not deliver. You see the pattern here? So I'm trying to break the cycle, not repeat mistakes that I know it's a mistake and I know that's not good for me or anyone around me. So I am I'm almost there. I can feel it, like, not to complain about my family situation too much, or not to complain about my parents. Again, I'm gonna dive back to the episode of me and Wes talking. He said it so well. He's like, you eventually you realize your parents are also kids. I see it, the way I say it is, your parents are humans. They don't know what they're doing. There's no guidebook on parenting. There's no right or wrong way to do. Yes, obviously there's a wrong way to do things, but the right way is very subjective. You want certain things, you can scream it on the top of your lungs to your parents, but you haven't considered their point of view, their situation, and their state of mind. Just like they can't do yours. The reason you guys are having problems and can't communicate because you're not seeing each other halfway. And that's very normal because you're basically, if we divide the generation now, like so Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and then alpha, and then beta. Every from what I understood, or from other people's opinion, or the internet, let's say, every 15 years is almost a giant gap between generations. Like, a millennial will have very different point of view than Gen Z, because technically Gen Z can be the offspring of millennials. So imagine if your parents have you at age 30. That's two generation of gaps. Like, if let's say if a millennial, like a younger millennial, have a kid now, that kid will be either Gen Alpha or beta, depends on when you have it. So you think your slang, your Gen Z slang or your Gen Alpha slang is like the coolest shit. By the way, it's fucking not. You guys talk like idiots type shit. You get what I mean? So, like, think about it. You're getting your parents have two giant generations gap from you, and with the things that are like the speed of things going, with the amount of content I'm also making content, with the amount of information that's out there, especially nowadays, that gap can be very, very scary. And then for them to understand you, for you to understand them, they had a completely different life than you. So, like, for example, if you're my age or a millennial, you went through the CD phase. You had a CD, you went from CD. If you were lucky, listen to me. If you're lucky, for anyone who's watching the video, I got really intense. Zoom into the camera. I got really close to the camera. If you're lucky, you were lucky, between CD and MP3, there was a generation called MD, like a mini disc. If you like design, if you like aesthetics, if you like retro futuristic aesthetics and knowledge or something, go look it up. Especially from Toshiba and Sony, they used to make a lot of those. The machine itself, it's a square thing. The disc itself, holy shit, I would be confidently said that's one of the most successfully industrial design that has ever made. Even though it was very short-lived, it was, dude, I gotta say that always have a really big place in my heart, because aesthetically, you look at it, I used to have a lot of those, and then it was just beautiful. It was so well designed, and I got to hold it, and then you pop it in. And then I remember when I went to the States, a lot of people were like, what's that? Because they only had CD. There was no graduation, like a baby step to MP3. It just went overnight, basically. So the MD era was very Asian, but man, just look it up. It's so cool, called mini disc, especially the Sony ones, but Toshiba has some gems in there. Like, oh my God. The reason I'm saying this is because a lot of you guys will be like, what? What are you saying? What are you talking about? Well, it's because I lived through that age. I have context. I know what I did, and I had a completely different life than you. A lot of people, if you are like, let's say if you're at the legal age in America, you're 21 right now. I'm a whole like Chinese zodiac older than you, So like I had that's just 12 years, like 12 years is like, you think as a generation gap is not that much, brother, sister, it's a lot, like if you're like I said, that was the perfect example I can give you. I had MD. Did you have? No, you think your iPods and your CD player was the shit? No, it was not. MD was the shit. And I lived through that. And you see how passionate I'm talking about it now? Because that was one of my favorite things as a kid, and you didn't get to experience it. So, this is what I mean. We have completely different lives, and depending on your economic background with your family, which you can't really choose. You're born into a family, either rich, poor, or middle class. That's not your choice. Just like how you can't choose your family. So you grew up with your view, your point of view, your world, your little, protagonist world. Um, your life can be completely different than your neighbor who's like you grew up with, or your classmates who you grew up with. All of this are, everyone has really different lives. And never mind the people who birthed you, gave birth to you, gave life to you. Like, everyone's life is super different, right? It's the same thing for parents. If you have a kid, you just have to realize they have a really different life than you. Their mind is different, technology is different. You can't, I hate it when, I really do. I hate it when Asian parents, Chinese parents, they can lay this shit on so thick, like it's free butter at a buffet. It's just like, they're like, at my time, I used to do this, like I had to. The older I get, I was like, hey, I had a whole episode talk about music. I love music. In case you don't know, I love music. I love talking about music. I love listening to music. I can talk about it. If you let me, I can talk about it for months. For months. For a video. I can edit it for like maybe make the longest video ever someone has ever made. But like, that's what I mean. Like, even the older I get, I'm like, oh, I understand what my parents mean. Like, because things were harder for us to find music, that's why we treasure it more. But it doesn't mean, obviously, this is not absolute. I'm not saying everyone don't appreciate music nowadays. It's just the appreciation is very different. And there are people who are collecting vinyls. Maybe it's like a trendy thing, it's like a whole thing. It's like an aesthetic thing, and people are also diving back into CDs. Physical copy of music. Great, like treasure those. If you have those, treasure them. And then I'm just saying, like, it's just very different, So I can sympathize because I enjoy music now. I understand how digital music world is working, and the back ends of it, the business of it, and the creation of it, which is great. By the way, I might do some really cool projects soon, so stay tuned. Um, so this is why I'm like, okay, the older I get, this is almost like a lesson that I want to give to you guys if you're younger than me. I keep saying that because I obviously don't know everyone who's watching my videos. If you guys want to drop me a comment or DM me, you're welcome to do so. I'm like a very welcoming person. Sometimes I have my bitchy moments, but so does everyone. I'm human. So, all I'm saying is, like, try as a child, from a child's point of view, try not to hate on your parents so much. If they're a decent human being, they are really doing their best. They might not know what they're doing. Most of them actually don't. They just go at it one day at a time. They can learn technical stuff like how to change diapers, how to burp a baby. If you have a fever, take them to the clinic or hospitals, or technical things you can learn from other parents or online and stuff. But how they raise you and how you guys communicate, that's totally, every single one is different. Even if you're in the same family, your siblings will have a completely different experience than you with your parents. That's how I would say magical this world is. It's just everyone is different, but everyone's at the same at the same time, which is, that's, isn't that magical if you think about it? Okay, ADHD. Sorry. So get back to the subject. So I think at the end of it, where I complain about my parents a lot. Like I said, I might not be happy with them. Let me just clarify that again. I might not be happy with how they treated me. I might not be happy of who they are as a person. I might not be happy about how they conduct themselves towards other people or in the family, but I am accepting them as who they are as a person. You just like, it's as simple as this is a phone. That's it. That's it. It's that simple. I know it seems like you don't know what you're talking about. I do. Trust me. I'm trying to save you years of therapy and a lot of hardship that you give to yourself. Because a lot of stuff, as an emo teenager, that's inevitable because you're growing, you're jumping a very different mindset from a child, from having fun and eating boogers or just chasing each other, you know, whatever. Um, to self-awareness, like, oh, I am a person, I can have my own taste and stuff. That's a big jump. So uh as your parents seeing you from a mushy little, little cute little baby, just little munchkins, to a person who's always unhappy, and you don't know how to make them unhappy and stop yelling at you and blaming you for everything that they're going through, it's also really difficult for them. Just see it in the middle. I'm playing both sides just to paint a little picture. Not that I have kids on my own, but I can see it. Like sometimes I would see my friends raise their kid. I'm like, damn, this is hard work. And you can never, especially being a mom, you can never, it's almost like this is not a feminist thing. It's just with my own eyes, because moms are taking on a lot as a parent, and it's almost like they can't do shit right. Like it's always you're the one to blame, which is really scary. But if you do it well, if you give your kid a really strong foundation of beliefs and behaviors and mindsets, you can offer them, then I think you wouldn't have a big problem. I think one of the biggest problem is I didn't grow up with my parents, so we're basically strangers. And think about your parents as strangers is, I'm not saying it's a phenomenon, like it's not special. I mean, there are people who grew up without their parents all around the world for different reasons. I mean, for money, for family split up, and like all kinds of different reasons. Like there's but you understand, if you didn't grow up with your parents, you guys don't have that chemistry, you don't have that communication down, you don't understand each other because you basically don't know each other well. So, and going in that from a teenager, like I started spending time with my mom when I was just like preteen. I don't know if I got my period yet, but I can't remember that far back. But like, imagine that, like, going to live with someone that you idolize because she has the title as your mom, but you guys don't know anything about each other, and you're more alike than you think, and you fight like it's the end of the world. Like our fights used to be so passionate, so furious that, people will call the cops because we're so loud. Think about it now, is really funny because, like, damn, for me to fight like that again, I don't think I have the energy. And then you're like, oh, my poor mom. You know what I mean? Like, damn, like, as growing up is such a fucking trip. It's so weird that sometimes you're like, oh, I understand, but I don't like it. I understand what people who've been trying to tell me things, and I get it. Finally get some of the stuff that they're doing now. So like, just, I think it's really important to stop complaining about your parents, because the ultimate reason, because it will set you free. Stop holding on to that imaginary grudge. If they did you wrong in a very ethical level, just leave. I know it sounds so easy for me to say that, but there were moments in my life where I just like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out and just take the step and leave. Like, obviously, you can't ask a teenager to live on the street and something or whatever it is, but you're smart. You know yourself better than, you just gotta trust your gut instinct. You know what you need to do. Stop giving yourself excuses and be like, oh, this is going to be so hard and so difficult. I don't have the money. actually, if you figure out, if you have a small goal, like for example, let's just, examples matter, okay? As a context. For example, if I'm trapped in a marriage with a kid, with someone that is okay, it's your partner, but let's say you're trapped geographically. Like I'm not, I don't want to stay here. But moving with the kid and my partner to another country or another city or even just another county, like, okay, moving costs a lot of money. Um the kid has to go to school, like the school district is different. How do we make sure the school is good? How do we make sure my partner and I can get to work on time? Like where do we, especially if you're moving countries, you're like, what are we gonna do for a living? All of this seems very daunting because you're thinking like, I want to go from one to step two, because step two is the ultimate goal, and you go from step two to step three, because you go. But then the biggest step is step two. The correct way to think about this as a advice, if you're not crazy like me, because I move countries, I think South America is the only, oh no, Australia, and like, I lived in majority of the continents, like lived. I didn't go travel, I lived there. And so I'm a crazy person. I just pick up and go because I was young. I had nothing attached. I still have nothing attached to me now. Technically, I can just go, but like, I'm choosing to stay in China because it's fucking great. Anyways, nothing of that sort. We can open that can of worms later. Um, just like, okay, so you're trying to go from point A, one to two. So let's say, what is 1.001, and then what's 1.002, and then you get to 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and then gradually your choices that you're making, it's gonna push you to number two. Because I think a lot of people don't understand from movies or from your teachings and stuff, you don't go to point one to point two immediately. It's not a movie. You can't skip ahead. You can't just be like, if I make this decision, it's going to work out for me. It probably won't, but you got to make that decision because you cannot stay at zero. You just have to move on, and you have to, I really want to encourage you guys, if you're having a situation, like, even what I'm saying here is even emotionally, you have to do that too. Like, if you're going through a breakup, or if you want to change jobs, or if you want to move to another country, or you want to take on a complete different career. If you are really in insufferable pain right now, you're just fed up with your life or something, make the move. 1.001. And then gradually, if you're ambitious and if you really believe in yourself, you get to 1.1, and then 1.2 and 1.3 can just follow through in a very swift, like, immediately. It just happens because it's in your head already. I'm not trying to say you have to make very detailed plans, but like, let me say an example in a very simple kind of way. Okay, so let's say I'm number one, I'm at zero right now. Man, I want to lose like another 5 pounds. Let's just say that, I'm not, this body dysmorphia, we're not talking about that today, but if you're not happy at your weight, you want to lose 5 pounds or 5 kilos or whatever you want to lose. Okay, so your head jumped to point two, that I lost the weight and I'll feel good. But in the middle, what is 1.001? I'd be like, okay, should I eat less today? What did I eat? Oh, I already ate dinner, so it's a little late, but make sure, maybe this is my 1.001 is, don't snack. Do not snack. If you're hungry, or if you just, have the munchies, drink some water. Don't snack. Like, keep that goal in head. Like, this is just something I'm trying to do. Even you'd be like, okay, I can't really convince myself I have to snack. Make a better choice at snacking. Like, don't eat a bag of Doritos and be like tomorrow and be like, oh, like, make better choices. That's your 1.001. And eventually, soon, if, like I said, if you can skip ahead and then, like I said, no late night snack, and then all of a sudden you develop this like habit, be like, hey, really, don't snack. Don't worry, you can eat that whatever potato chips or whatever is like late night snack. You can eat it for breakfast tomorrow. Convince yourself, lie to yourself in a way. And then maybe you get to 1.2 and 1.3. Like, not only that I stopped snacking, because I stopped snacking, I make better food choices now, that you lose like 3 pounds or 3 kilos, whatever the units you need to lose. At one point in like, my goal was like, hey, let me do a month. Then maybe you can reach that 1.3, like a 2 in the halfway, almost like in the week. And you'd be like, oh, damn, this is progress. This is actual, witnessable, metrically measured progress. So this is what I mean, like you just have to move towards that, make small decisions and think about what you are doing. So that's one of those. So what I'm saying is, again, if you want to make a decision like that, this is how I got to like kind of accept my parents for who they are. I know I went through like a big circle, like a lot of like building up work and context and stuff. But isn't that the art of talking and me yapping at this podcast and you secretly hating to love me? So that's what I'm saying. Like you just have to be really, just trust yourself. Really, like I think the biggest lesson I've learned for the past few years is like, man, every time something goes wrong, you're like, I should have trusted my instincts. I should have just believed in myself and do the things I wanted to do, like set out to do. So trust your instincts. You got this. Like seriously, life is difficult for everyone. And you think things are not difficult. Like, okay, you'd be like, oh, Jeff Bezos seems like he's having a good time. To you, yes. I can, because his problems cannot be solved by money. You understand what I'm saying? Again, I'm going to say that again. His problems, like real problems, cannot be solved by money. Yes, in hindsight, in a society like this that we idolize money, we spend our whole life purpose chasing after money, try to have a better life for material things to, pay for electricity and all of this. Yes, obviously having money would help a lot. But there are things in life where you can't pay with money. And he's having a lot of those problems. Trust me. Trust me. So sometimes I consider myself lucky. Most of my problems can be solved by money. Let that sink in a little bit. Okay. So it's almost an hour, and I don't even have that many points. I think I said 3, but those are big ones. And I hope if my words can help you, and again, if any of you motherfuckers have a problem with me speaking English or Mandarin or any vice versa, any problem, like I said, go eat a bag of dicks, because I'm here. I'm a third culture. There's a lot of third culture kids out there who understand both. And I'm not trying to appeal to anyone. This is just who I am. I'm one of those. This is who I am, and you have to be okay with it. And if you haven't seen my previous episode with Yvonne, like we said, if you're Chinese, it's very just shame on you for not learning Chinese. Do you hear me? If you're Chinese, you're any other country outside of China. I know it's really difficult because you don't have the environment. Fuck that. Fuck it. Don't use excuses. I actually know people. There are foreigners here that speaks Chinese. Of course, they have the environment, but you just have to work harder. Trust me. If you're ABC or any AB, whatever, or whatever B, just whatever country you were born in, you don't speak fluent Chinese, but you are Chinese, you need to learn your root language, your cultural root language. I don't know how many ways I have to say this. Just, learn it and thank me later. Seriously, just do it. If we as Chinese, I have a lot of friends who can speak fluent French, Spanish, or if we can do it, you can do it. You got this. I believe in you. Seriously, I do. I do. If you need extra encouragement, slide in my DMs, leave a comment, support, and thank you for spending another hour with me. I hope you have a really good day and fucking make good choices. Okay? I'll see you soon. Bye.